an era where domination belonged to only two men. Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo stood so far above everyone else that the gap felt impossible to close. Many generational talents could have been considered the best player in the world in any other era. But before football became divided between Messi and Ronaldo, before every debate turned into Messi versus Cristiano, there was a brief and almost unbelievable moment when one man crossed, yet so unintentionally humiliating. Because at his peak, that was exactly who Kaká was. A player who made the impossible look effortless. As Andrea Pirlo once said, for 2 or 3 years he was the best player in the world. There was a time when teams simply had no idea how to stop him. Sadly, what eventually stopped Kaká was not a defender. It was not a tactical system, it was his own body. Like a star that burns too brightly, he began to decline physically and faded away far too soon. For younger fans who never watched him play, this is not nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It is a reminder that before Messi and Ronaldo ruled football, there was one final king before them. An artist whose genius never received the lasting legacy it truly deserved. The brief but undeniable magic of Ricardo Kaká. What makes Kaká's story so fascinating is that it does not fit the traditional image of a Brazilian footballer. He did not grow up in the favelas. He did not have to escape poverty. He did not come from the hardships that shaped so many Brazilian legends. Kaká was raised in an upper-middle-class family with European roots. Combined with his youthful appearance, many people initially believed he was softer, weaker, or less talented than other Brazilian prospects of his generation. That perception disappeared the moment he stepped onto a football pitch. Once the game started, everyone saw the same thing: a player capable of running past anyone in front of him. He may not have possessed the flashy street football style that many associated with Brazil, but he had extraordinary technique, control, intelligence, and composure. Qualities that placed him above almost every teenager in the country. Then, at the age of 18, everything nearly came to an end. In a freak swimming pool accident, Kaká fractured his spine. When he arrived at the hospital, doctors were brutally honest. Paralysis was a real possibility. His career could be over before it truly began. His dreams, his future, and everything he had worked for could disappear forever. Years later, Kaká admitted that the experience completely changed his life. It changed the way he viewed everything, yet through what many would call. From that day forward, he often said that he played football because he wanted to enjoy the life that God had given back to him. That moment also marked the beginning of his deep religious faith. Over time, he became one of football's most recognizable examples of a player driven by belief, positivity, and gratitude. Ironically, he seemed so perfect as a person that years later his wife reportedly left him because he was too perfect. But after surviving that accident, Kaká played football like a man who had been given a second chance at life. At just 19 years old, he finished the season with 25 goal contributions in 31 matches. Even then, when AC Milan paid €8.5 million to sign him in 2003, the move was viewed as a gamble on a talented young player rather than the arrival of a future superstar. Football was very different back then. Transfer fees were nowhere near what they are today. Within weeks, however, Kaká earned a place in a midfield that included Pirlo, Seedorf, Gattuso, and Rui Costa. Players whose reputation from the very beginning. People expected a good player. What they received was a phenomenon. In his first season, AC Milan won the Serie A title, and Kaká contributed 20 goal involvements. An incredible return for a 21-year-old midfielder who had just arrived from Brazil. But what impressed Milan's veterans most was not only his technical ability, it was the effortless way he combined elegance with effectiveness. At first glance, Kaká did not look especially fast. Yet he possessed long, elastic strides that made him deceptively quick. He could cover huge, completely exposed. He had the creativity of a classic number 10, but he also possessed the finishing ability, movement, and instincts of a striker. Despite his youthful appearance, he was far from physically weak. Standing at 1.87 m and weighing around 82 kilograms, he combined strength, speed, and endurance in a way few attacking midfielders ever have. He could dominate the midfield, press relentlessly, and still have enough energy to launch devastating attacks. In many ways, Kaká was one of the first examples of the modern attacking midfielder. a complete hybrid, a player capable of creating chances, scoring goals, winning physical battles, and working tirelessly for his team. Even today, it is difficult to find players who combine his physical gifts with his technical quality. There are midfielders who possess similar creativity but lack his athleticism. There are athletes with comparable speed and power but without his passing, dribbling, and finishing. As his career progressed, Kaká gradually erased the traditional boundaries between midfielder and forward. By only his second season in Italy, he finished with 28 goal contributions, including 2 goals and 6 assists in the Champions League. With Kaká playing a central role, Milan eliminated Manchester United in the round of 16, Inter Milan in the quarter-finals, and PSV Eindhoven in the semi-finals. Unfortunately, the final did not end the way Milan had hoped. The miracle of Istanbul saw Liverpool complete one of the greatest comebacks in football history before winning on penalties. Even so, at just 22 years old, Kaká had already become one of the most important players in the team. At that age, it was unusual to see someone so productive operating behind the striker. One of the most underrated aspects of Kaká's game was his dribbling ability. This is where things become truly fascinating. His long strides created an optical illusion. On television, it often looked as though he was not moving particularly fast, but defenders experienced something completely different. They saw a player carrying the ball at the same speed that most players could only achieve without it. Somehow, he maintained perfect control while doing so. One of the best examples came in his famous goal against Argentina. Even a young Messi could be seen desperately chasing after him. That goal showcased everything that made Kaká special: the flawless first touch, the devastating shoulder feint, the explosive acceleration. Most importantly, unlike many modern speedsters, Kaká's pace was not simply sideways movement. He attacked directly toward goal at full speed. Every run felt like a counterattack waiting to happen. By 2005, the football world already knew Kaká belonged among the elite. He entered the 2006 World Cup as one of Brazil's brightest stars. Although Brazil ultimately failed to meet expectations, Kaká remained one of the few players who consistently impressed. He scored a stunning long-range goal against Croatia. He carried the team's transitions. He often looked like the driving force behind an aging Brazilian side. Brazil remained incredibly talented, but legends like Ronaldo and Ronaldinho were no longer at their absolute peaks. Eventually, they were eliminated by a masterpiece from Zinedine Zidane. Despite Ronaldinho having won the Ballon d'Or only a year earlier, something had become increasingly clear. Kaká was now the best Brazilian footballer in the world. Despite Brazil's disappointing World Cup campaign, he returned to Milan and delivered another remarkable season. He finished with 30 goal contributions, recording 19 goals and 11 assists. Everything pointed towards something extraordinary in the 2006-07 season, a season that would ultimately change football history. Everything pointed towards something special in the 2006-07 season. In the round of 16, Milan struggled more than expected against Celtic. The first leg ended in a goalless draw. But in the return match, Kaká delivered a midfield masterclass. He controlled the tempo, dictated play, and scored the goal that sent Milan into the next round. Then came Bayern Munich. The first leg was another difficult battle. Pirlo and Kaká both scored, but Bayern managed to equalize and the match finished 2-2. In the second leg, Milan took complete control. Kaká was once again at the heart of everything. Milan dominated from start to finish. With important contributions from Seedorf and Inzaghi, they secured a 2-0 victory and advanced to the semi-finals. Waiting for them was Manchester United. Although it was only the semi-final, many viewed it as the real final. Cristiano Ronaldo opened the scoring after just 6 minutes, but 22 minutes later, Kaká responded with a perfectly placed left-footed finish beyond Edwin van der Sar. Then came the moment that defined his career. In the 37th minute, a long ball slit between two United defenders. Kaká sprinted toward the penalty area. At the perfect moment, he nudged the ball forward with his head. Gabriel Heinz and Patrice Evra both misjudged the bounce. They collided with each other in complete confusion. Kaká calmly ran through, collected the ball, and finished past Van der Sar for his second goal of the night. Old Trafford fell silent. Even though Wayne Rooney scored twice to give Manchester United a 3-2 victory, the story of the match belonged to Kaká. Years later, Sir Alex Ferguson admitted the truth. Manchester United simply could not handle him. Despite winning the first leg, United appeared shaken. Their confidence had been damaged by one man's brilliance. In the return leg at San Siro, Kaká opened the scoring after only 11 minutes. Milan never looked back. They completely overwhelmed Manchester United and won 3-0. The Italian giants marched into the Champions League final. Waiting for them was Liverpool. 2 years earlier, Liverpool had shattered Milan's dreams in Istanbul. Now, Milan had a chance for revenge. This time, Kaká did not need to score. His influence was everywhere. He assisted Filippo Inzaghi for the opening goal and controlled the game from midfield. Milan dominated the transitions, controlled possession, and kept Liverpool at a safe distance throughout the match. Across the entire knockout stage, Kaká had been decisive in every round. He scored against Celtic. He dominated Bayern Munich. He destroyed Manchester United. He controlled the final against Liverpool. By the time December arrived, there was little debate about who deserved football's highest individual honor. Kaká won the 2007 Ballon d'Or by a huge margin. He finished ahead of both Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Looking back now, it feels almost impossible to imagine. But for one brief moment in football history, Messi and Ronaldo were not competing for first place. They were competing for second. Kaká had reached the summit of world football. He was the last player before the Messi and Ronaldo era to truly stand alone at the top. Paradoxically, the season after winning the Ballon d'Or would produce some of the best individual numbers of Kaká's entire career. During the 2007-08 season, he recorded 34 goal contributions in 41 matches. He was still one of the most dangerous players in world football. However, football was beginning to change. The Manchester United side that Kaká had dismantled a year earlier had reached another level. Cristiano Ronaldo was entering what many consider the first true peak of his career. The balance of power was beginning to shift. Even so, Kaká remained among the elite. He was still capable of deciding matches on his own. That is why, in the summer of 2009, Real Madrid paid €67 million to bring him to Spain. At the time, it was one of the biggest transfers in football history. Real Madrid had spent years watching Barcelona dominate. To change their fortunes, they assembled a new generation of Galacticos. Cristiano Ronaldo arrived, Xabi Alonso arrived, Karim Benzema arrived, and Kaká arrived as one of the biggest stars on the planet. For his fans, everything seemed perfectly aligned. He was only 27 years old. He had just completed the best years of his career. Many expected a second prime. Instead, it became the beginning of a slow and painful decline. During the season before his move to Madrid, Kaká suffered an ankle injury that forced him to miss 7 matches. Then, only months after arriving in Spain, another injury struck. He was sidelined again for almost a month. Despite these setbacks, he still produced impressive numbers. Adapting to a new league and a new team, Kaká registered 21 goal contributions in 33 matches. He contributed heavily in both La Liga and the Champions League. Before injuries interrupted his momentum, he was averaging nearly 1 goal contribution per Champions League match. Everything suggested he could recover completely and return to his very best. Then came the 2010 World Cup. Kaká had won the World Cup with Brazil in 2002, but he was only a teenager and played a limited role. In 2006, he was one of Brazil's key players, but the squad was aging and fell short. By 2010, he wanted to lead his country to glory. The problem was that his body was already sending warning signs. He had endured 2 consecutive seasons affected by injuries. Instead of resting and fully recovering, he pushed himself to play in South Africa. Looking back, it may have been the biggest mistake of his career. During Brazil's match against Ivory Coast, Kaká was sent off after an opponent exaggerated contact and fell dramatically to the ground. The red card ruled him out of the match against Portugal and denied football fans the chance to watch Kaká and Cristiano Ronaldo face each other at a World Cup. Brazil reached the quarter-finals, but Kaká looked physically exhausted. Against the Netherlands, Brazil started brilliantly and took the lead. Kaká even had a golden opportunity to score a second goal and put the game beyond reach. His shot was perfectly placed toward the top corner. But Dutch goalkeeper Maarten Stekelenburg produced one of the greatest saves of the tournament. That moment changed everything. In the second half, Wesley Sneijder scored twice, Brazil collapsed and was eliminated. With the benefit of hindsight, Kaká probably should not have played in that tournament at all. Shortly afterward, doctors diagnosed a serious meniscus injury. The damage forced him to miss 29 matches and spend 148 days away from football. It would become the most devastating injury of his entire career. The most heartbreaking part of Kaká's story is what happened after that injury. Because when he finally returned, the quality was still there. The intelligence was still there. The technique was still there. Even after missing nearly half a season, he produced 13 goal contributions in just 20 matches. He scored 7 goals and provided 5 assists. In La Liga alone, he recorded 12 goal contributions in 14 appearances. For a player recovering from a major knee injury, those numbers were remarkable, but the injury had taken something from him that would never fully return. It stole his acceleration. It stole his acceleration. It stole the explosive power that had made him unstoppable in open space. Most importantly, it stole years from his career. During the 2011-12 season, Kaká was no longer the player who had terrorized Europe. Yet even as a shadow of his former self, he remained highly productive. He finished the campaign with 24 goal contributions in 40 matches. What many people forget is how brilliant he was in the Champions League that season. Across just 8 matches, he recorded 9 goal contributions. The competition where Kaká had always looked most comfortable continued to bring out the best in him. Throughout his career, the Champions League was the stage where he consistently reached another level. Despite the physical decline, his vision, passing, creativity, and finishing ability remained elite. In many ways, his performances that season are still underrated. He was producing at an exceptional level, despite carrying the effects of an injury that would have ended many careers entirely. Then came another controversial moment. In the first leg of the Champions League semi-final against Bayern Munich, Jose Mourinho made a surprising decision. He left Kaká on the bench. Real Madrid lost the match 2-1. For many observers, it made little sense. At that point, Kaká was arguably the team's second most in form attacking player behind Cristiano Ronaldo. Leaving him out of such an important match felt like a huge mistake. In the second leg, Mourinho changed his mind and started Kaká, but by then the damage had already been done. The tie eventually went to penalties, where Bayern Munich eliminated Real Madrid and advanced to the final. It felt like another missed opportunity in a career that was increasingly defined by bad timing and cruel injuries. Unfortunately, the decline continued. During the 2012-13 season, Kaká's body deteriorated even further. He managed only 27 appearances and 10 goal contributions. Around this period, he also suffered another muscular injury. Each setback made it harder to regain the athleticism that had once separated him from everyone else. The player who could sprint through entire defenses was slowly disappearing. The talent remained, the body no longer could. Eventually, Kaká left Real Madrid and returned to AC Milan for one final season. It was a homecoming filled with emotion. The player who had once conquered Europe was back where he had become a legend, but time was undefeated. At 32 years old, he returned to Brazil and played for Sao Paulo, the club where his professional journey had begun. Soon afterward, he made the final move of his career and joined Orlando City in Major League Soccer. Even there, flashes of brilliance remained. The touch was still elegant, the vision was still extraordinary, the intelligence was still world-class, yet injuries continued to follow him. Throughout his years in MLS, he spent significant periods on the sidelines. His body simply could not keep up with the level of football. His mind still wanted to play. Unlike Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, Kaká never finished his career with impossible goal numbers or endless individual records. But statistics alone cannot capture what made him special. At his peak, Kaká was one of the most complete attacking midfielders football has ever seen. He could create chances for teammates. He could score from distance. He could dribble past defenders. He could dominate transitions. He could carry an entire team forward. He was surprisingly fast, surprisingly strong, tireless in his work rate, brilliant in his decision-making. He possessed every quality a manager could want from an attacking midfielder. The tragedy of Kaká's career is not that he failed. The tragedy is that injuries prevented him from sustaining his greatness for longer. His prime burned brighter than almost anyone else's. but it also disappeared much faster. That is why younger generations often underestimate him. They see the numbers, they see the shortened peak. They do not always see the force of nature. He was between 2005 and 2008. For those who watched him, however, the memory remains unforgettable. There was a period when defenders could not stop him, coaches could not solve him, entire teams could not contain him, and for one extraordinary moment in football history, even Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo stood behind him. When Kaká won the Ballon d'Or in 2007, it was not a gift. It was not a popularity contest. It was the reward for being the best football player on the planet. The last man to win the Ballon d'Or before Messi and Ronaldo began their decade-long domination. A player whose career was cut short by injuries, but whose peak remains one of the highest football has ever seen. Ricardo Kaká may not have ruled football for a decade. He did not need to. For a few unforgettable years, he reached a level so extraordinary that the two greatest players of an entire generation were forced to chase him. And that alone is enough to make him one of the most remarkable footballers the world has ever seen.